Shana Tova. Shana Tova. In a video she published last month called Caught in the Thicket, my teacher, Rabbi Sharon Cohen Anisfeld, the president of Hebrew College, says beautiful, poetic, and heartbreaking words about the binding of Isaac. Chapter 22 of the book of Genesis. Today's Torah reading for Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Anisfeld says, the tragic momentum of the story seems irresistible. The child will have to die. Do our lives have tragic momentum? Is the tragic momentum in our lives irresistible? Or is there still hope? The story of Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac, enables us to feel terror as hope recedes. The tragedy gets closer and closer, each verse putting Isaac's life in greater peril. Why though? Why read this story on Rosh Hashanah? And what I'm about to say, which is a response to Rabbi Anisfeld's piece and an echoing of it, I hope to suggest answers to these questions. This chapter is completely do or die for the Jewish people, for God's covenant with Abraham. Or maybe it's die or die. If Abraham slaughters Isaac, then he will have no heir, and Sarah will not be the mother of the Jewish people. But if Abraham doesn't listen to God, then he demonstrates his unfitness for the covenant. God sets this crisis in motion, and only God can put an end to it. But this traumatic episode of near infanticide, while it doesn't end the covenant and it doesn't end with Isaac's death, nevertheless, it does destroy Abraham's family. Isaac walks away and never sees his father again. Sarah dies. Her story ends here. God never speaks to Abraham again, and Abraham never talks to God either. They're through with each other. The relationship does not survive the events on Mount Moriah. The events on Mount Moriah destroy Abraham and Isaac's family. Having banished Ishmael and Hagar forever in yesterday's Torah reading, and all but slaughtered Isaac in today's, Sarah dies and Abraham ceases to be a husband or a father. Who is he now? What is he? What has God done to this family? And yet, things are certainly very, very bad for Isaac and Abraham. Sarah is dead. And yet, there is the ram. The ultimate disaster is averted, even though many other disasters have occurred along the way. The ram is there. According to a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, I'm going to put this down here. According to a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, the ram was there all along. Ever since the sixth day of creation, when God created the ram just before God rested on the seventh day, the ram is there waiting for its close-up for a few thousand years, at least. It's like a young actor standing in the wings, waiting for its debut, but the actor is stuck. His horns are caught in a thicket. Has its costume ripped? Is it getting a new one? Did it forget its mask? It can't seem to get itself onto the stage. God, the playwright, has given it a crucial role in the play, but God has also deprived it of the power to walk onto the stage because its horns are caught in the thicket. The ram is stuck, waiting for Abraham to release it. First, the ram has to watch and wait. As Abraham lifts the knife over Isaac, the angel has to say, Abraham, Abraham, and Abraham has to say, Hineni, I am here. Then the angel has to make a little speech while the ram is waiting, still stuck, and finally, Abraham lifts his eyes and the ram is seen, finally seen for what it can bring to the story. How I wish that ram wasn't stuck in the thicket. I'd like to see it become a battering ram, to run up to Abraham even before he puts Isaac on the altar, to extricate himself from those thorns, so that it can run up to their tent before Abraham and Isaac set forth, so that it can headbutt Abraham and Isaac in the shins and force them to stay home. Don't they know they can save lives just by staying home on the couch? I wish the ram would pull off one of its own horns and blow a Tikiyah Gedolah right in Abraham's face and then yell, snap out of it! Change can't wait. Change can't wait. While the ram waits, Isaac is melting away. Like an ice cube on a hot summer day, he melts, getting smaller and smaller until his death looks like a foregone conclusion. Even though we know how the story ends, that Isaac lives, it feels as though Isaac is slaughtered every year. There's no ice left, you say, just a single crystal of life, a brand plucked from the fire, only a shred of emunah, of faith, left in humanity and in God. My friends, the ice is melting. There is smoke in the sky and fire on the ground. Children and grown-ups are dying by the 100,000s. Cruel knees are pressing down on innocent necks. But each of us is a ram. We are all rams. We are capable of saving lives. Not as substitute sacrifices like the ram in chapter 22, but as battering rams. Rams are working on a vaccine. Rams are working at the CDC and in every hospital and laboratory in the world. Rams are putting out fires in California, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Rams are organizing and attending peaceful protests. Rams are donating their time and their money. Rams are calling their friends to check in and fend off the loneliness. Rams are cooking and delivering food for each other. Rams are making the best of this global warming, reckoning with racism, global pandemic moment. Rams are wearing their masks. We don't have to do this alone. We can join in the stampede. But we need to lift up our heads out of the thicket. We need to liberate ourselves and intervene and interrupt the disasters whose tragic momentum is gathering speed. We need to get up out of the thicket and get involved in whatever ways we can. There's no time for waiting until the angel is ready, until Abraham is ready, until the angel's tears drop out of heaven into Isaac's terrified eyes. We need to get up and vote. Shana Tova.